Thank you. Next petition is number 1324 from 2021 by Andy Batentier, French, on behalf of the Association Secret Toxiques, I cannot pronounce it, I'm sorry, signed by 24 persons on allegedly incorrect application of the EU regulation on pesticides, including the regulation number 1107 from 2009, and the judgment of the Grand Chamber of the Court of Justice in the European Union of the 1st October 2019. And petitioner is with us in the room. Yes, thank you. Please, floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, members. In February 2022, you agreed that we would open this petition in the presence of 24 signatories. 1,100 people have signed this. This demonstrates how important this subject is, but there has been no progress. The Commission just sends copy-paste responses to our requests. Let me remind you that we have a simple request. It's not revolutionary. We're asking for an application of Regulation 1107/2009 as interpreted by the ECJ. We're asking that all pesticides placed on the European market must show that there are no harmful effects in the short term or the long term for human beings and for the environment. We're talking about products that are marketed and which mix different active substances, which actively mix co-formulants and which have impure substances. These mixtures are usually more toxic than the initial ingredients. That's why the legislator said that when products are authorized, there needs to be a check at 2 levels, at the EU level and at the member state level. In October 2019, the court said that summary tests laid down in the implementing regulation were not enough to prove that there was a lack of harmful effects. These products need to be evaluated for an active substance and for a particular product approved by the member states. The court said that the health authorities must look at studies to ensure that there are no long-term harmful effects of pesticides. If we look back to February 2022, over 100 MEPs drafted a letter, but that has not provided reassurance. The follow-up to this petition makes us think even further that we don't have studies showing that there's a lack of long-term effects on In November 2022, the French Committee for Ethics and for Health stated that there were 2 authorized pesticides in France and that there was not proof that there was a lack of harmful effects in line with EU rules. Bernard Houle, the head of EFSA, said to Comenvi that his agency didn't have the methods to prove that there was no interaction between the different components of a pesticide. That's the very heart of the matter today. Having spoken to the Commission and to the French authorities due to this petition, well, we've always got the same response. These authorities say that the implementing rules are in line with Regulation 1107/2009. They say that they are doing everything in line with the Court of Justice ruling, and they do this but never put forward convincing arguments, and they even contradict themselves. If the evaluations are in line with the rules, then why did the Commission establish a number of workshops with the Member States so that there could be an evaluation to study these products in the long term? Of course, we welcome these workshops. Regretfully, though, we have put forward a number of proposals that have been ignored. Regretfully, our proposals have been ignored. Regretfully, the European Commission recently stated to French members that it believed that for the moment there was no need to carry out regulatory changes. If there are no changes to the implementing act, if there are no guidelines written, well, then there will just be a few vague promises about investigations into toxicity of molecules as co-formulants. But instead, we need to have a clear methodology. That's what legislation is crying out for, that's what scientists are crying out for, and that's what your members are calling for. The Parliament asked that there be a change to the legislation, either through a new implementing act or through guidelines, as was asked for on the 24th of January this year. Once again, we ask for the European Commission to speak to this committee, and we ask the Commission to establish a clear scientific procedure that will be in line with Regulation 1107/2009. There is a lack of toxicity testing for the long term, but the regulation needs to be respected. European citizens need to be protected from the dangers of pesticides. That includes farmers who have spoken up throughout the continent in recent weeks. They are the ones who are the most likely to suffer from illness due to these pesticides. We turn to the Parliament to obtain guarantees, and that's why we ask you to again support our petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Petitioner. Now the floor goes to European Commission. Eric Tevenert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Commission was given the opportunity to respond to this petition in this committee 2 years ago, actually indeed in February 22. It also replied to subsequent written correspondences we received in March, September 22, as well as last year in July. Let me recall the position that we expressed in all those communications. Plant protection products are well-defined mixtures, and their long-term toxicity can be established on the basis of their components. Long-term toxicity testing of products requires tremendous tests on animals that should be avoided. Despite the significant number of animals that would be sacrificed, the results would be of limited scientific value, as such animal tests would have no significant statistical power to identify effects. This is why they are actually not used to test for carcinogenic, mutagenic, or reprotoxic hazards. It appears therefore not appropriate to amend the data requirements for plant protection products to systematically require long-term toxicity testing for plant protection products. The EU has a very strict regulatory system for plant protection products in place. As part of this system, the Commission listed in 21 unacceptable formulants for use in plant protection products. In addition, in 23, last year, procedures and harmonized criteria were set to identify further unacceptable co-formulants. New unacceptable co-formulants will be added to the existing list on that basis. It is important to recall that Member States and EFSA are responsible for the risk assessment for active substances and the representative product for the representative uses of pesticides. It is also the Member States who are responsible for the risk assessment on which the subsequent authorization of products is based for all individual plant protection products uses. Such assessments include the assessment of information on the co-formulants contained in each product. Now, the Commission is working with Member States and EFSA to increase harmonization and transparency in their assessment of co-formulants contained in plant protection products. EFSA already increased the transparency as regards co-formulants contained in the representative product in the context of the approval or the renewal of active substances. It published mid-22 a technical report on co-formulants that are used in the representative product. It is true, as the petitioner says, that in 23 the Commission has organized several workshops where co-formulants were discussed. 3 workshops were organized. The first, in May 23, brought together more than 100 participants from Member States, Norway, stakeholder organizations, and also agencies such as EFSA or ECHA. The petitioner, as well as other NGOs working on pesticides, participated and made presentations. The challenges concerning the assessment of plant protection products, including co-formulants, and the possible actions that are needed to address them were discussed. Another workshop focusing on technical aspects followed in June under the lead of EFSA. A third workshop that was organized at the end of 23 together with the German Federal Office of Consumer Protection and Food Safety on zonal authorization procedure improvements and developments, so-called ZAPID, discussed the issue of co-formulants as well. The reports on those workshops are available on the Commission website, where we have created a dedicated part for this issue. Now, these workshops have led to identify a number of activities for further actions. The first one is the establishment of a common database on co-formulants. The second is the development of a guidance document on the assessment of plant protection products, including their co-formulants. And finally, we consider that there is a need to have improved communication on the assessment of plant protection products and the co-formulants themselves. The Commission is now working together with the Member States, EFSA and ECHA, on those activities, and the progress on those activities can be followed on the Commission website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now floor goes to members. EPP, please, Mr. Kanev.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And once again, on behalf of colleague Bernhuber, I can say that here the EPP position is firmly aligned to the position of the European Commission as presented. So we plead for closing of this petition based on the fact that it has been already investigated several times, that the matter of it is deeply and thoroughly investigated, and it is already wholly in the competence of the Commission of legislative initiative, and the Commission has obviously done their best to decide whether they need to launch this initiative or not. So we can easily close this petition already.
Thank you very much. Now, SND, please.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you. My group once again expresses its support for this petition, which should stay open due to the arguments put forward by the petitioner. Toxicity assessment is failing because of the cocktail effect, the synergistic effects. They're not being taken into account. This was established by the PEST committee, which was headed by Eric Andrieux back in 2019. And this is confirmed in the Blaise ruling of the European Court of Justice. The European Commission must have a true assessment procedure so that we truly look at the cocktail effect. Look at glyphosate, which was in the headlines. And yet, we still have a lack of information on the toxicity of co-formulants, and it's not clear what the synergistic effects of glyphosate are. Some want to close this petition, we've just heard that, because of what farmers are doing, because of farmers' uprisings, but I don't think that's the right thing to do. Farmers are the first victims of pesticides. They suffer workplace diseases because of it, and this is a question of trust in European institutions and protection of citizens' health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have Mr. Beton. Mr. Beton. Yes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We listened to the Commission, and it seems as though secret toxics hearing was fruitful and that there have been results. But no. Since then, there have been 4 events that have proven the Commission wrong. The first is that the ComAgri committee, which I'm vice president of, heard about a study on workplace hazards, and farmers, Madam Chair, I thought I was speaking to you, Madam. So the biggest hazard that farmers face is pesticides, pesticide exposure. And we see that the children of farmers who are near these pesticides often suffer from childhood cancers. The second event, there was a hearing of EFSA. Actually, we spoke to EFSA twice, and EFSA our European health body, says that when pesticides are approved, there is a failure to respect European legislation. And that's the least one could hope for when you place a product on the market, a potentially dangerous or hazardous product. Then we have media outlets. We have 6 media outlets from different countries. They have brought to light the fact that data submitted to the EU and that comes from the pesticide companies, that data is not reliable. So I think we can already talk about pesticide gate. We see that the assessments are not the right ones. Now, final point that is paramount. Now, we're in PETI committee, and I think we should look at European citizens' initiatives. I think we need to listen closely to ECIs. We should listen closely to what citizens say to us. So there is an ECI on saving bees and saving small farmers. We know, well, that ECI says that there is a lack of information on pesticides as regards human health, but also on biodiversity. The issue of biodiversity isn't even on the radar of the Commission or of EFSA. So for all of the reasons I've just listed, I really underline the fact that this petition should remain open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker is Mr. Gruffat, please. Mr. Gruffat, you also wanted the floor, please. Yes.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam Chair, yes, I've got my mic on. Good afternoon, everyone. I thank the petitioner, Andy Batentier. He has reminded the European Commission of its duty, namely to apply European legislation. The legislation we're looking at today is Regulation 1107/2009. We see in that regulation that synergistic effects of pesticides must be assessed so that human health is not harmed, so that vulnerable groups are not harmed, and so that animals are not harmed. That's not happening today. Today, pesticide evaluation of pesticides is first done by the industries themselves. This is a conflict of interests. This is ludicrous. We could call it ludicrous if human lives didn't depend on it. It's farmers who are at the front line, and we see that there's an increase in cases day by day. This is happening in the 21st century. These are organizations that have to react because the EU is not doing its work. Because of this, we can say that the Commission is responsible for the agony and deaths of farmers who have to deal with prostate cancer, lymphoma cancer, other cancers, and brain cancer and Parkinson's. This is a simple petition. It's not asking for additional legislation or for additional standards or rules. No, it's just asking for enforcement of a regulation that was voted on 15 years ago. Yes, 15 years ago here in this Parliament. And it's asking for an ECJ ruling of 2019 to also be respected. This petition is just a booster shot. It reminds us of something. And we have upcoming elections. And we hear arguments about how the EU is not efficient. So it's our duty to turn to the Commission and to say, shoulder your responsibility. You have to manage risk. This petition is in line with the 1.1 signatories of an ECI, which asks to end the use of pesticides, the ECI on saving farmers and saving bees. I ask you to keep this petition open. It simply asks for legislation to be respected. We're just asking for reliable data on products that are put on the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand that Anna Miranda also wanted the floor. Can you please limit yourself for 1 minute? We are really running out of time. Thank you.
Gracias, Presidenta.
Thank you. I want to first of all pay tribute to the petitioner, and I am in line with what my French colleagues were saying. This is not just a French problem. It is an issue that affects everyone, every place where there are farmers, nature, and life. There's always this dilemma, the market or the protection of human health, this issue of transparency and lack of data, the dilemma between science and the issue of data and hazards and risks. In this PETI committee, we've heard about the European Citizens Initiative on protecting bees as pollinizers who bring life, and we've been talking about that for years. But today, when we look at pesticides, and if we look at studies from 2018 and from other years, we've seen that there are similar requests throughout the EU. The Commission must therefore listen. The citizens are asking for human life to be protected, for farmers and nature to be safeguarded too. It's not just about the market, about marketing. There need to be exhaustive checks and controls. So let's keep this petition open, but let's also accept our responsibility as European institutions. We have to respect the many people and organizations who are asking for better legislation that provides better protection. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Danzi, but 2 sentences.
Condivido che venga tenuta aperta.
I agree that this petition should be held open, or kept open rather, not only to protect the environment, but above all to protect the health of people working on farms and people eating the produce. And if these laws are not enforced, then health will be put at risk. These laws need to be enforced fully. And in order to do this, we demand that this petition be kept open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm in a bit... yes, petitioner goes to 2 minutes, but first I have to say that probably I made a mistake when I gave the floor to 3 representatives of Green Group, having in mind that you have only 2 people in PETI committee. So please, during the future discussion, let's limit ourselves to number of seats, otherwise we will stay for night here. It was pleasure to listen to you, but still. Now floor goes to petitioner for 2 minutes, please. And please try to speak not very fast, but fit into 2 minutes. Thank you.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to speak a bit more slowly. We find the Commission position regretful. It's just a summary of the dialogue we've had over the last couple of years. We're asking for toxicity studies for the long term and for the synergistic effects. So we're asking to look at the interaction between molecules. That is what the regulation calls for. But the Commission is just talking about toxicity of co-formulants. We need to stop talking to each other like this, where we're not listening to each other. We need to have a clear methodology from the Commission so that we can look at the synergistic effects, as Benoit Biteau asked for, as Claude asked for. The regulation has been around for some 15 years. We now need to have a clear methodology. The ECJ has called for this too in a 2019 ruling. This was also asked for by the legal service of your own Parliament. Let me remind you of that. The legal analysis of the Parliament of this regulation says that there ought to be some change. So we are waiting for a framework document for... we have examples of approvals of active substances, and we want there also to be experimental studies too. The Commission refuses to do that. Now we're asking for a methodology. The Commission should put forward some proposals on the table which are scientifically valid and in line with European law. Of course, it almost goes without saying, we want our petition to remain open until we have this methodology. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, on behalf of Renew Group, I have to say that Renew PETI team is unfortunately split on the issue, so I have to abstain, which leaves us with 9 potential votes of EPP in favor of closing, and all others are in favor of keeping it open, including Ms. Danzi, so petition remains open. Thank you. Now we move forward.